Okay, alrighty. 2014 Subaru Forester. I thought the back wheel needed to be balanced because as I was driving the last couple of days, it seemed to be like vibrating. Today I pulled away from work and the car seemed to, when I let off the accelerator, it seemed to stop more abruptly than usual. And I said, aha, I'll bet it doesn't need to be balanced. I'll bet a brake is sticking. So this one, I didn't take the wheel off yet. This is the passenger side. Spins easily. The driver's side, I just took the wheel off. However, it is stuck with a capital S and a small uck. I can't move it at all. So obviously this caliper is stuck. So I'm gonna get a brighter light in here. It's either the caliper is stuck or the brake line has an issue, one or the other. So hopefully it's just the caliper. What I'm probably gonna do is take the caliper and bracket off, see if I can compress it, lubricate it, and see if I can take care of it the easiest way possible first, and see if that works. Yeah, it's completely stuck. Okay, so I'm not a car mechanic. What I have read and researched, it can either be the caliper is stuck or there can be a clog in the brake line. Now, apparently what you can do is you can open the little bleeder and see if you get some gravity drainage out of the brake fluid, out of the bleeder valve. If it does drip out when you open it up, then the brake line is not clogged. And if nothing drips out, the brake line is clogged. But what I wanted to do in this case is not mess around with the brake line. I wanted to just see if I could compress the caliper if it was stuck. And so what I'm doing here is 14 millimeter. I'm just taking off the caliper. I'm not taking off the whole bracket. I'm just taking off the pads. So that's 14 millimeters. And that's not torqued too high. It's torqued to like 20 foot-pounds, so that comes right off. And you can see after I get the screws out, I have a lot of trouble even taking the top of that bracket off because the caliper is pushed against the brake pads, which are pushed against the rotor. So I'm finally able to work it off, and then you'll be able to see it. The video, like the rest of my videos, is not great. As I'm shooting it, I don't think to show the important stuff to the camera, unfortunately. I'm trying though. But in this case, the caliper was stuck. And I tried to compress it and I could not get it to move, regardless of what I did. Eventually I got it to move. So you'll see how I did that. A little bit of struggling, a little bit of muscling, a little bit of really pushing on the brakes. All right, so I'm fighting to get this off, but ultimately I do get it off. Here we go. Wow. All right. So the caliper is stuck right there. When I pump the brakes, it doesn't push out, and when I try to compress it, I can't compress it in. It's stuck right there. Let's see if I can compress this in. There we go. Let me compress this in there. is stuck. One more time. So you can see after lubricating it and pumping the brakes and compressing the piston, I got it to actually move a little bit. The piston's actually sticking out a little bit over there. So I'm cleaning it out right now. I'm going to lubricate it again, and then I'll do that a couple of times with the hope of freeing it up. All right, so we got it to come all the way out like that. And that's what it ultimately looks like after freeing it up and pressing the brakes a few times. So all I'm doing here is I'm cleaning the piston between the outer and inner walls. And then since I plan on reusing the brakes, or the pads actually, I'm just compressing the piston back in. And instead of using an old brake pad, I'm using a blank from an electrical box I had lying around in my garage. All right, so here you can see I already hung up the brake caliper. It's hanging by like an elastic band on that spring there. The reason I put it there is to take the stress off of the brake line. You don't want to leave it hanging by the brake line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the caliper bracket, which is that big metal piece right there. I'm testing to see if those caliper pins can easily slide in and out. I'm actually going to take off everything and re-lubricate them. So then I'm just pulling off the brake pads. They just slide right out. And in my case, it's two 14mm bolts. They're actually torqued a little bit higher. They're torqued to 40 foot-pounds of torque. So I'm going to pull those off, and then the entire brake caliper bracket comes right off. So I just pulled off the metal pieces, and I'm just cleaning them with some brake cleaner, and I'll use a little bit of paper towel, and then I'm going to reinstall them, and then I'll lubricate the parts where the brake pads are in contact with that with a little bit of lithium grease that's made for brakes. So all I'm doing here, unfortunately the pail's in the way. I told you my videos suck. But I'm putting a little bit of lubrication on the metal brackets, those things I just cleaned off. And I'm also pulling out the pins, those brake, well, I forget what you call them, the pins that go in and out. And I'm putting some lithium grease made for brakes on that also, just so they slide in and out nicely. And after that, I'm going to mount everything back on and call it a day. So somehow the camera got pointed downwards, but all I'm doing is I'm reinstalling the caliper bracket, reinstalling the brake pads, the rest of the caliper, and ultimately I'll put the wheel back on. And now it's a few days later that I'm doing this video. The car's been working fine ever since. So I think if it locks up again, if I have the same issue, the next time what I'll do is I'll test the brake line, the soft line on that tire, and I'll see if the soft line has a clog, and if it does, I'll change the soft line. But for the short term, this was a short-term fix, and hopefully it's going to work. That's it, because like I said, it's a couple of days later now. The car's been working fine ever since. And you know, every time you take the car out for a half an hour, you're hitting the brakes at least probably 50 times, at least where I drive in New York. All right, so thanks for watching. I apologize for the crappy nature of this video, but it was just more an idea of showing you that you can take a caliper off. If it's stuck, compress it, hit the brakes, expand it, re-grease it, or re-lubricate it, and put it back on, and hopefully it's going to work. All right, every case is different, but that's what happened in my case. Thanks for watching.